This is the guide to the new tree in War Thunder, the French Bluewater Fleet. The French Bluewater Fleet, better known as the Marine Nationale, surprisingly is actually quite good compared to many other nations in game currently as of update La Royale. Although it lacks in terms of anti-aircraft on many ships due to many being scuttled in 1942 before they could receive more advanced AA guns that you find on British and American ships, but they more than make up for it with their main guns armaments. These ships were mostly armed with the already familiar 13.2mm Hotchkiss machine guns found in single, twin, and quadruple mounts, 37mm single shot guns similar to the German Flak 37C30 both in single and dual mounts. For heavier anti-air armaments this sadly isn't improved much with the 75mm Model 1922 and the 90mm Model 1926, of which both are capable of dual-purpose fire, and unfortunately do not receive variable time fuse. These shortcomings are made up for on capital ships by having a large concentration of these guns seen similarly on German World War II capital ships like the Graf Spee and Scharnhorst. But there are a few ships that didn't get scuttled in 1942 and received a more advanced anti-aircraft armament, but these will be mentioned later on. A quick rundown of majority of the fleet: you hit insanely hard, and are really quite quick, but you can't take many hits. Now here's a quick rundown of the tree by tiers. For Tier 1, your destroyers play basically all the same, being quick glass cannons armed with 5 single-mounted 130mm guns, which is about 5.1 inches for you Screaming Eagles. You have an average speed of 36 knots for AB and 32 knots for RB. You also get access to the 550mm, 21.5 inches, Model 1923 DT torpedo, of which will stick with you on any ship with torpedo tubes for the entire tree. Also, for one ship of this tier, Leopard, you get access to a better AA armament with single-barrel 20mm guns and 40mm pom-poms. For Tier 2, it's very similar, but of which your guns are upgraded to the 138 by 40mm, 5.5 by 1.6 inch guns, of which hit about twice as hard. Of which on all 3 ships of this tier you receive 5 of them in single mounts. Your speed is also scaled to an average of 48 knots in AB, and 39 knots in RB. Unfortunately you'll only be receiving the aforementioned 13.2mm machine guns, 37mm cannons, and 75mm cannons. For Tier 3, you will start to receive your light cruisers, of which consist 2 of the Truon class, and Jeanne d'Arc. Your last 2 destroyers consist of Le Malin, and Marceau. Le Malin managed to survive the war and received an upgraded AA armament using the familiar 20mm Oerlikons, and 40mm Bofors cannons. This is also the same for Marceau, but Marceau is actually a 1936 A-class destroyer from Germany, which France received after World War II. This one does not receive the 1923 DTs though. For Le Malin, you are incredibly fast at 51 knots for AB and 42 knots for RB. You also get access to the improved 138 by 50mm, 5.5 by 1.9 inches, cannons which hit about the same, but get improved velocity, meaning slightly more penetration for your SAP rounds, and better range overall. For the light cruisers at Tier 3, 2 of them received upgraded AA armaments, again featuring 20mm Oerlikons and 40mm Bofors cannons, those being de Truon, and Jeanne d'Arc. All of the light cruisers for Tier 3 receive the 155mm, 6.1 inches, Model 1920 for its main armament, featuring 4 in twin mounts. These guns receive 2 versions of HE shells, and SAP shells. These hit decently hard, but have abysmal reload. And as light cruisers, don't expect to survive much damage. Also Jeanne d'Arc is very slow compared to the de Truon class ships at around 33 knots for AB, and an abysmal, 27 knots for RB. Meanwhile, the de Truons get around 38 knots for AB, and 32 knots for RB. For Tier 4 currently you get access to 2 ships mainly, and 1 premium ship. those being Colbert, Émile Bertin, and Duplay. Colbert and Duplay are heavy cruisers of the Suffren class of heavy cruisers, while Émile Bertin is a light cruiser. None of these ships get an upgraded AA armament. But, this is made up by the amazing shell performance. For the heavy cruisers, you get access to 4 twin 203mm, 8-inch, guns. These guns receive HE, and SAP, of which they hit incredibly hard. For Émile Bertin, you get access to 3 triple 152mm, 6-inch, guns. These receive HE, SAP, and APCBC. These also hit incredibly hard. These 3 ships are also very quick. The 2 Suffrens clocking at 38 knots for AB, and 32 knots for RB. While Émile Bertin clocks at 46 knots for AB, and 39 knots for RB. But all of these ships have a common downside: you don't get much armor. This is since these ships were built during the interwar period and were forced to lose a bunch of armor due to the Washington Naval Treaty limiting their weight. This is the same for ships of the County class in the British Tree, the Trento and Zara class for Italy, Kira for Russia, and for almost all of the heavy cruisers for the American Tree, except for the Baltimore's and Des Moines class. This means more veteran players should be familiar with these kinds of ships. But for new naval players that decided to choose France for their first naval tree, stay tuned as I will have a playstyle guide at the end of this video. Really quick notice before Tier 5, these ships all get access to seaplanes, that seaplane being the GL.832 high seaplane. Of which, the Suffrens receive 2 of these. At Tier 5, you unfortunately receive terrible ships. These 2 being the Courbet-class dreadnought battleship Paris, and the Bretagne-class super-dreadnought Lorraine. Of which, Lorraine received an improved anti-aircraft armament in similar amounts to the USS Nevada. Since there's only 2 ships, I can go in depth really quickly. Paris is very slow at 25 knots for AB, and 21 knots for RB. Your armament consists of 12 305mm, 12-inch, guns. 4 centerline, and 2 wing-mounted. You also receive 22 138 by 55mm, 5.5 by 2.2-inch guns as secondary casemates. You also receive 775mm cannons. You get about 250mm, 10 inches, of armor on the belt and turret faces. Around the belt, and along the casemates, about 160mm, 6.2 inches, of armor. For deck armor you receive around 40mm, 1.6 inches, of armor. For the conning tower, you receive 266mm, about 10.5 inches of armor. For Lorraine you receive 8 340mm, 13.4 inches, cannons, all mounted center line. You also receive 14 of the same 138mm or 5.5-inch casemates on Paris. Unfortunately, your armor is hardly improved with 300mm, about 12 inches, of armor on the turret face extra. This is made up for by the insane amount of anti-aircraft guns consisted of 20mm Oerlikons, and 40mm Bofors cannons. But you also get access to 8 75mm guns. Lorraine's speed clocks in at about 25 knots in AB, and 21.5 knots in RB. Overall the French tech tree are made up entirely of glass cannons. For a quick playstyle rundown, for destroyers it's recommended to be slightly behind all the frontline destroyers, bonking on other destroyers and the occasional light cruiser. For Tier 3 and 4 cruisers, this is the same. But, for the heavy cruisers you can engage other heavy cruisers, but not in direct combat. For the battleships, play it like other battleships. Staying in spawn and camping like a virgin, or be a Chad and run along the edge of the map or capture point, dunking on other ships, avoiding direct combat. Quick message before the end of the video. This is my first guide, and if you think this is a good idea, Please like the video and put any feedback in the comments and dislike accordingly, as this helps me figure out what I should do for my next project. A quick point as well, really quickly, there will definitely be more French ships coming in the future. I will be making individual videos on those as they come out, and they'll probably be out very quickly due to me personally having a high amount of knowledge on the Marine Nationale. Also, this is my first real edited video since I finally got my hands on an editing software. That's all. Thank you viewer or viewers for watching this video, and I shall see you when the next time comes around. Be safe, be well.